Hello, Aaron Judy, and I'd like to give you my presentation on ethical decision making and on specifically on the use of government property. Now, some of you may be wondering, how in the world are you tying ethical decision making to a Black Hawk helicopter, which is up in the right-hand corner, but more to come on that here soon. A little bit of background. Government employees have access to important property. Unfortunately, almost weekly or daily, we hear about the misuse of government property by many government employees, whether they are term government employees, permanent government employees, or appointed political people. The U.S. military also has access to important property to help conduct operations, obviously, and also to help conduct training. All U.S. government property is owned by the U.S. government and, more importantly, by you, the United States taxpayer. This is certainly true for federal owned property at the federal government, but I imagine is also true for state and local governments as well, which many of you probably work in. So what's the scenario? Taking a Black Hawk out for lunch. Yes, they did do this. Pilots were conducting a routine training mission and listed a restaurant stop in their mission plan. However, and this is the issue, ethical issue came into play, they landed the helicopter behind the restaurant and a citizen reported the helicopter. So what's the problem? Government public employee or service member perception is a problem. We are in the public eye and perception is an issue. Appearance of impropriety is what they were found to have included here, and using government property for personal access or personal gain. So the issue wasn't necessarily with the pilots going to lunch. That's very common for pilots to go out and do a routine training mission for the day, but they should have landed at an airport or a suitable military base or somewhere where the helicopter was supposed to land, and then take a rental car or get some other means of transportation to go eat lunch and then come back to the helicopter and continue on in their training mission. But unfortunately, they decided to land the helicopter directly behind the restaurant. An investigation was conducted, and since the pilots listed the restaurant in the mission plan, they did not violate any laws or regulations. However, they went through some verbal counseling with the Inspector General, with the Department of Defense, which investigates a lot of whistleblowing accusations and things that are mostly in ethical decision making. And then if there is a criminal investigation that needs to occur, the IG will then turn that over to the specific law enforcement arm, if it's military, Naval Criminal Investigative Services, Office of Special Services, the Air Force, or to the FBI. So fortunately for these guys, they were not found guilty of any criminal act or breaking any law or regulation, but it was certainly an ethical problem. Tying faith integration, Proverbs 25, I like this verse. Knowing what is right is like deep water in the heart. A wise person draws from the well within. So here are my recommendations. We need to respect property, especially if property is not personally owned. Sounds kind of self-explanatory, but when we're given a lot of things to use, especially if you're in a high position in the public office, you're going to have access to possible vehicles, IT, information, various pieces of hardware, depending on what type of role you have. Be aware of public perception. They are watching us as government officials, and we need to be held to a high standard of ethical practice. Do not use government-owned property to help expedite personal access or for personal gain. And last but not least, it might sound kind of benign, but I think it is very applicable in ethical decision making. If it doesn't feel right in your gut, then say so. Then say no. Yeah, say so as well. But anyhow, this is my presentation on ethical decision making, and hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for your time.